Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be part of this ADHD Festival. Thank you all for joining me today. I am Lori Hammer. We're going to talk about Nourished Focus, the amino acid blueprint for ADHD relief. So we're going to cover stress and anxiety relief very specifically with amino acids and why ADHD meds don't work and how we're going to fix those nutrient deficiencies. So welcome everyone. I am super excited that you are here. You can find me at the Calm Mom community on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll just get started because I have a lot of information to cover. So thank you for being here. All right. So who am I? I help busy moms overcome overwhelm, attention issues, brain burnout by nourishing their brains naturally. I am a nutritional therapist. I delve into functional labs and nutrition and all those kind of things, but I use natural science-backed brain solutions that work really fast. So the goal here in this talk is that I'm going to provide you with hope about freedom from can I talk today? ADHD and burnout. I want you to know that it's absolutely possible, that you don't have to white knuckle yourself through every single day with ADHD and any other brain related issues that you have going on. There's absolutely something that we can do to help you. So, and I also believe that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, a love, and a sound mind. And that's 2 Timothy 1:7. And that's what I base all of this on, because we were created to have a mind that works vibrantly, that is organized, that can focus, and that is free from fear and stress and anxiety. And so that is why I do what I do. That is the premise of everything. And so this is my beautiful family. We have my daughter-in-law on the left-hand side here, my son, my daughter, me, and my husband. And we all have our own story as to how we got into this. Why do I do what I do today? This is my why. Way back when in 1996, I had anxiety and eating disorder. I had a lot of health issues going on and a lot of depression. And I ended up in an outpatient clinic in Mill Valley, California. And what I learned there is still what I implement today. And that is, if we balance the brain first, if we fix the deficiencies in our body, amazing things happen, right? We remove those interferences, we fix the deficiencies, and our body actually knows how to heal. And it is beautiful, beautiful thing. And so I overcame anxiety, depression, an eating disorder. I've had a cancer diagnosis. I've had, a lot of hormone disruption and things over the years. And I've been able to hone in every time something goes a wire in my health or in one of these family members here. It sends my paradigm even deeper, and then I can implement that with my clients. And the basis of everything that I do is foundational. So if we fix those foundational deficiencies and those nutrient depletions, then everything below the neck gets a lot easier to deal with. So this is my beautiful family. This is why I do what I do. I've been a homeschooling mama for 18 years. This is our last one. Unfortunately, I would keep homeschooling forever, but I do have a beautiful new grandbaby, and his name is Wilder. And so I get to, come alongside them in whatever capacity they want. But I'm so excited to be a grandma. And this is another thing that motivates me a lot to come to these types of festivals and talks, is because as we age, we're told, well, this is just normal. Well, no, it's not normal. It's not normal to not remember where your keys are. It's not normal to not sleep well. It's not normal. It may be common, but it's not normal, right? And so as we're aging, we want to be able to play with our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids and to age really, really well. And it's so important when we're thinking about ADHD and other mood disorders, that how can we navigate that? Yes, there's lots of tools and tricks when your brain is wired that way. And there's also things that I want to present to you today that maybe it's a nutrient deficiency that's going to help you to age better as well. So my belief is that we don't have a mental health crisis. We actually have a nutrient deficiency crisis. And when we fix those nutrient deficiencies, then we won't have this mental health crisis anymore that has been so, marketed to us, unfortunately. So the whole ADHD medication trap. So I know many of you on here probably have been on Adderall, maybe Vyvanse, or some other types of things. And I just want to tell you, like, I'm not against medication, right? But what the issue is that none of those are a long-term fix, right? Because what they're doing, whether it's an SSRI, whether it's an ADHD medication, is that they're going to push the pathway. So in regards to ADHD medication traps, is that it's pushing that dopamine pathway. And there's so much talk right now about dopamine. It's definitely the buzzword. Excuse me. It's definitely the buzzword right now. And we're so focused on that. But when we're pushing that pathway instead of supporting that pathway or fixing the nutrient deficiency in that pathway, we are creating this false inflation of dopamine that our body is not designed to have. And that crashes our system. And so there may be some short-term calm, because I know a lot of people use these medications if they're taking an exam or they have something important going on. And there can be some short-term calm, but the long-term chaos that it creates in the brain is not worth it. And so I really want to dive into that today. Okay. Sorry, my computer is just a little slow. We're not at home, we're on vacation. So what most people don't know about ADHD meds, and this is really important, so I want you to write these things down if you don't know this already, is that 1 in 9, over 10% of our kids ages 3 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD. Now, some people say maybe that's just better diagnostic procedures, or it could be that there's more nutrient deficiencies going on and we haven't addressed those properly. We're so quick to try to fix something instead of going to the root cause issue. So that really bothers me. Ages 3 to 17 diagnosed with ADHD, and most of them are prescribed some kind of stimulant, some kind of ADHD medication, or another medication as well. And that's not okay. We should not have 3-year-olds on this. I have a new client and she was put on ADHD meds when she was 5 years old. How do we know that somebody has ADHD as a 5-year-old? They're still growing. Their brain is still developing. They're still trying to figure out if they like to play with Play-Doh, or if they like to play with Legos. And we put them in these classrooms where they're not designed to be in the first place. They need to go out and they need to run, and then we're feeding them Pop-Tarts and stuff for breakfast. And we expect their brain to function well, and then they're getting diagnosed with these things. And it's just wrong. It just really is wrong. And I'm going to speak really blatant and blunt truth today about this nutrition that's going on in our country and what we're expecting our kids to do and to perform when they are absolutely undernourished and they have oodles and oodles of nutrient deficiencies going on. So we go to 1 in 3 teens on ADHD meds say the benefits wear off too fast or cause other mood swings. And then what happens when there's other mood swings? I see a lot of teenagers on ADHD meds and also on depression and anxiety meds. And so we're medicating these brains that are still growing and still developing and still forming. They don't know what to think. They don't know what to feel. They don't know what to say. They're medicated in a way that is not natural for their brain. And it's not because they're, missing or they're broken. It's just because they just need a different nutritional aspect going on. And that's what I want to present today. So up to 50% of users stop taking the stimulant meds within the first year due to side effects or lack of long-term effects. And that is the challenge with all of this, is there's so many long-term effects. And these meds have been around 20 to 30 years, and we really haven't studied them extensively, unfortunately. Like, we are still the study going on. And stimulants don't create new dopamine, just like SSRIs don't create new serotonin. They just flood the brain in between the synapses. You have the presynaptic and you have the postsynaptic, and it's flooding the middle in between those two of falsely inflated dopamine. So it's not creating new dopamine. So that eventually actually leads to burnout. And then it stops our body from actually using the excess. So we're meant to recycle when we are making dopamine or serotonin or any of the other neurotransmitters, we're designed to recycle things that aren't converted into those neurotransmitters. And so these medications actually stop that recycling process. And so then that creates more nutrient depletion, and it creates more hiccups in that nervous system and keeps our brain in that overdrive and in that depleted state, because these processes are not allowed to take place anymore. And then there's so many side effects. So appetite suppression, insomnia, increased anxiety, and in rare cases, and I have seen this, some psychosis, which leads to other mental health issues. And then we're put on other medications. Like I just had this beautiful woman who was on 5 different medications. She's 35 years old. And so she started when she was super young, was like 12 or 13 years old on these medications. And they just kept adding and adding and adding and adding. And she got to 35 years old and she's like, I don't even know how to feel anymore, right? I don't know how to feel. I'm not really sure what is sad, what really is anger. When I cry, is it really because I'm crying, or is it because of these medications? And so she wanted to get off these meds. And so we started working with her last fall, and we've been able to taper off those medications until right now. She's like, I'm feeling all the feels, and she's not sure what to do with all those feels, but it's fun to watch her work through them. And we are supporting the brain in the entire process. And she is doing so amazing. And she looks so good, right? So let's talk about ADHD and meds in adult women. So this is where we get a lot of, I feel like we're really misunderstood as women. So ADHD is often missed until like age 35 plus. Why is that? You're thinking, oh yeah, because there's so many hormones. There's so many hormone shifts going on that makes these symptoms worse, right? And probably because your hormone issues were missed when you were younger, and they've just gradually gotten worse and worse and worse over the time. So this hormone cascade of dysfunction, that bucket has filled up and now it's overflowing, right? And so unfortunately, the prescriptions for the adult women have increased by, get this, 344% in the past decade. That is unheard of, and it should make you go, are you kidding me? Right? 344% of medication prescriptions have increased for adult women for ADHD. Right? And adult women are more likely to experience mood swings, anxiety, and stimulant crashes than men are. And so we're not being heard, unfortunately. And our hormone changes are not being addressed. Our adrenal issues are not being addressed. We are told to be in overdrive all the time, to do. And we forget how to rest. Guess what? When you forget how to rest, your ADHD symptoms are going to get worse, because we have to be able to rest. And so we're going to address that as well. Okay. Oops. And so stimulant burnout. This is so important. So what happens? These medications are going to artificially push that dopamine and the norepinephrine pathway, and that's going to lead to a lot of sleep disturbances. And we're going to talk about sleep here really quick. Like I said before, these receptor sites are going to burn out over time, and then that's going to lead to crashes. That's going to lead to dependency on these medications, just like any other drug. If somebody is addicted to cocaine or heroin or anything else, like, you have these crashes, and then you need it again to get you back up to that level you were. The same thing happens with these medications, and that's why people get dependent on these over time. So they are actually addictive. It's going to be appetite suppressant. If you're not gonna have a good appetite, you're not going to get the good nutrition. It affects your gut health. It affects your sleep, and then it's going to lead to more mood swings. Okay. So what are the side effects? So we're going to have increased anxiety and mood swings, because these stimulants can trigger or worsen emotional instability over time. So this is where we're talking about those long-term effects, and that's why people end up on more and more medication. So it might help you focus and be more productive, and all of a sudden you've got anxiety and depression that you didn't have before, or maybe some people actually lean to more like bipolar type symptoms as well. And then the practitioner you're working with forgets to go back, well, maybe it's the ADHD medication that you're on, right? There's also insomnia and sleep disruption. So people have difficulty staying asleep or falling asleep, even when you're exhausted. So you're just like wired and tired all the time. And this is a huge issue for people, because if you don't sleep, you don't heal, right? And so our brain has to get into that deep sleep. And then it can lead to this appetite suppression that we've mentioned previously. So under eating. So then we have this nutrient depletion. Then we have these growth issues in the kids. And I see so many kids right now that are just kind of like underdeveloped, or they're super skinny, or all of a sudden they tend to gain a lot of weight because some of these actually increase their appetite or suppress their metabolism correctly. And so then they end up gaining weight. So there's a lot of issues going on here. So then we have this rebound irritability and crashes. So when the meds wear off, because even on the sustained release ones, you may not get the same dose all day long, right? So these meds wear off and then your emotions are going to spike and they can drop fast and hard. And all of a sudden you have this outer body experience. You're like, who is this person responding to my kids or to my husband or to my coworker? Like, oh my goodness, I don't really want to respond this way. But because the medication has such a crash, your brain just kind of automatically responds, and that's not your fault, right? That is a side effect of what's going on. And we talked about this dopamine burnout and dependency. So over time, your brain becomes less responsive without the drug. It's kind of like yelling at your kids. The more you yell at them, the less responsive they are. And that's what the drug is doing. It's kind of like yelling at your brain constantly, creating that false inflation of dopamine. And so over time, your body just doesn't respond to the drug anymore. And so that's when you have to switch to medications or add new medications. And then all of a sudden you're on these five medications. And nobody wants to be on those, right? So let's talk about sleep disruption. So really, really, really important, because if you don't sleep, you don't heal. And so I'm always talking to people about guarding their sleep. So many kids on these stimulant medications take longer to fall asleep. How many of you have a kid out there, or maybe you yourself? It just takes longer to fall asleep. And so then you experience shorter sleep cycles, right? And you have poorer sleep quality. So why is that such a problem in all of this? Is because that suppresses your REM sleep. That's where we're going to get our dreaming, and it suppresses our deep sleep. And that's when our brain detoxes. Our brain can only detox at night. It can't really detox during the day. These things only happen when we sleep. And that's why it's so important that we guard our sleep, because if your brain can't detox, if the lymph in your brain cannot drain properly, you're going to have toxins building up in that nervous system and in your brain. Guess what? That creates more issues. That creates more ADD, ADHD issues. That creates more insomnia. So you're on this hamster wheel, right? So you're on a medication that suppresses your sleep cycle, and then you can't detox, which creates more issues, which keeps you on the medications. And so you see how you're just running and running and running and going nowhere, right? And so it's so, so important that we really pay attention and guard our sleep. And so I see so many people coming to me on these ADHD meds, maybe SSRIs, and a sleep medication, because that is what happens because your brain is stuck in overdrive. So even while you're sleeping, your cortisol level is too high. Your brain just never shuts off and just, lets things process, because we process our thoughts, we process day's events, we process what we're going to do next while we sleep. So do you think that would have an effect on your attention? So even if you're not on a medication, are you sleeping well, right? Because ADHD so depends on how well we are sleeping for all those reasons that I have just said. So if you're not sleeping well, you're like, I just can't get past this. Okay, let's work on your sleep. Is it a hormone issue that you're not sleeping well? Or is it a cortisol issue? And you have to get the right testing for that. And that is what I do. So we will test those things to see what is causing this sleep disruption. It might be an amino acid deficiency, which we're going to talk about here shortly. So there's lots of things that we can address for the ADHD and still keep that brilliant, sharp, active, creative mind that you have, because we don't want to suppress that, right? We don't want anything. We just want to give you the tools so that brilliant mind can create and do all the amazing things that it was designed to do, right? So we talked a little bit about hormone or cortisol levels. And so ADHD meds have been shown to significantly increase cortisol levels. Why is that a problem? Well, that keeps our body in overdrive. And that will keep us from sleeping well. And then we have these really amazing glands in our brain, and it's called the HPA axis, your hypothalamus pituitary axis. And the stimulant medications affect that axis. Guess what? This talks to your thyroid. Your thyroid talks to your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands help with your hormones. So you see this whole cascade going on. So if we are affecting this master gland up here in our brain, we're affecting our thyroid. How many of you have thyroid issues? Ooh, what if it has to do with what's going on in our brain? How many of you maybe have cortisol issues? You're like, yeah, I've got cortisol issues. I can't sleep. I feel like I'm in overdrive all the time. Well, we've got to start up here in the brain and to balance all of this for you. Okay. Then all of these medications come with a black box warning. So abuse and dependence, cardiovascular events, psychiatric adverse events, and so much more. Just like SSRIs come with suicidality, this can also come with suicidality. So we don't want these medications messing with our brain. Our brain was designed by God to work really well without medication. You are not deficient in a medication, you have a nutrient deficiency, right? And these meds are just like putting, duct tape on a leaky pipe. It just doesn't work. So they cover the symptoms, but they never actually fix the root cause. Okay. And my mantra is write this down, that you cannot medicate away a nutrient deficiency. It's just not possible. You're not deficient in any medication, but you are deficient in nutrition. And so this is the second half. If you're just joining us now, this is the second half of what I want to talk about, because we're diving into amino acid therapy right now. Okay. So your brain, we're going to talk about 5 different areas in your brain right now. There is serotonin, there is endorphins, there is catecholamines, GABA, and then we're going to talk about glucose balancing. When these 5 areas are good and balanced, ADHD should not be an issue. There's so much talk about catecholamines. That's where your dopamine is. But we forget about all of the other areas of our brain that do contribute to ADHD. And so I want to go over those with you so you understand what those sections are. So first, we're going to talk about what are amino acids. Amino acids are essential compounds that are common to all living things, from microbes to humans. They're the building blocks of everything, from your hair to your skin, to your enzymes, to your hormones, to your cell membranes. Everything in your body needs amino acids. We're going to concentrate on your neurotransmitter amino acids, how that helps your neurotransmitters today. And there are over 100,000 types of proteins that are made up of just 22 amino acids. Isn't that amazing, right? And so let's dive into that. So the first, what we're going to talk about is that neurotransmitters determine our mental health and our emotional state of well-being, right? There's no way around it. But we're going to talk about how amino acid helps a lot of these conditions. So anxiety, ADHD, depression, PTSD, eating disorders, OCD, addictions to drug, alcohol, porn, sex, media, any kind of addiction has to do with a deficiency going on in your neurotransmitters. Sleep disruption, and you can use these in all ages from infant all the way to 100 and beyond, if you happen to live beyond 100. So amino acids are essential to every living thing on the planet from head to toe, okay? And so let's talk about serotonin, because that often gets missed when we're talking about ADHD. This is the first neurotransmitter to get depleted, okay? This is completely connected to your sleep and your circadian rhythms. So this helps us to, it should be higher in the day, and then it just gets lower at night and converts into melatonin, and we should be able to sleep really, really well. It is found all over our body. About 80% of it is actually in our gut. And if we don't have enough serotonin, guess what? You can't make enough dopamine. If you don't have enough serotonin, it affects absolutely every other neurotransmitter in your body. So when I am working with serotonin, I'm working with an amino acid called tryptophan, or 5-HTP. And when those are depleted, guess what? You can't make serotonin. And if you can't make enough serotonin, you don't have enough tryptophan, it's really hard to make all of what you need for the neurotransmitter, your catecholamines and your dopamine, your endorphins, and everything else. So this all has to work together. That's the way that we are designed. So if you have low serotonin, let's talk about what that looks like. It's negativity and depression, winter blues, anxiety and worry. You can't sleep. Maybe you're irritable or you're ragey, obsessive thoughts, perfectionism, afternoon cravings, panic attacks, phobias of all kinds. So there's lots of symptoms there. So if you're always on edge, we're going to move to GABA. So this is where you feel tense, burned out, overwhelmed. You can't turn your brain off. How many times as an ADHD person, you're like, I can't turn my brain off? And people are going towards the dopamine pathway, dopamine pathway. What if it's GABA? What if you need a little bit of GABA to just go, whoo? So serotonin is our sunshine. Like if you feel happy and good and exuberant about life, that means you have enough serotonin. You have that good energy and you just like, oh, life is good. Your glass is half full, not half empty. GABA is like, lets us take this deep breath and let it out. Like it's like the water coming off the duck's back kind of thing. So this is what GABA helps with, is when your brain feels tense, burned out, overwhelmed. Maybe you can't turn that brain off, right? You crave wine, sugar, meds. Are you using this to calm your brain at night? Because you're like, I am ADHD, but I'm using wine, sugar, meds to calm down, right? It could be a GABA deficiency, right? So let's test that. Let's find out what else is going on there for you that your brain needs to balance instead of always going down that infamous dopamine pathway. So I call GABA God's anti-anxiety molecule because it really is the brakes of the brain. It's going to relieve that chronic stress, that burnt out feeling. And when you have no GABA, that's when you're going to get the panic, the rage, the anxiety spirals. But when you have enough GABA, you just feel calm, cool, and collected. And you're like, I could deal with what came at me because we can't get rid of stress, right? Stress is going to be around us all the time until the day that we die. It is chemical, it is physical, it is emotional. And so it's always going to be there, right? But what we can do is we can support our brain well enough for like, I can deal with that. And so you learn to respond appropriately to stressful situations. So I know so many of us are like, I really did not handle that very well, or I overreacted. When you have enough GABA, the likelihood of you overreacting or being inappropriate reaction to the situation is less likely, which hopefully is encouraging to all of you. Then we get into our third area. We get into the endorphins, and this is the brain's built-in pain reliever. So this is a precursor to dopamine and our stress response. So this is often missed as well for people with ADHD, is that, oh, maybe your endorphins are low, because this is going to help regulate our appetite and our cravings. It gives us a natural lift in our mood, and it actually helps to soothe chronic pain. So endorphins give us that inner joy. It's kind of like putting on a comfy blanket or a comfy sweater. We're just like, we just feel good and grounded and just kind of yummy inside, right? So we have serotonin, that's our sunshine. Our endorphins are our joy. And GABA helps us to go, oh, life is not so bad, right? And so it's really important that we address this as well. And then if you feel pain too deeply, this could be an endorphin issue. And it might not be physical pain. It might be just sensitive to emotional pain. Are you super upset when somebody is critical of you? Do you cry easy? Do you feel kind of raw and vulnerable and you don't like that feeling? Right? That can be a low endorphin issue. And that can send our brain into overdrive as well. And then we're not feeling very focused. We're feeling ADHD, but it could just be like an endorphin issue. Or it could be all these things combined, right? Maybe you constantly crave comfort or numbing from certain activities or foods or wine, shopping, exercise, maybe self-harm. We have all these kids that are harming themselves now. And it's really, a lot of it has to do with low endorphins. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing all these areas, because we get too compartmentalized and we're not addressing these areas. And then people are falling in the cracks and they're on these medications for years and they don't need to be, or you're struggling. Even if you're not on meds, you're like, I don't take meds. Well, then you're white knuckling through every single day and you don't actually have to. So let's start addressing these things for you and these kids. So then we get to the catecholamines, and this is like, the dopamine area. So the catecholamines are your brain's focus fuel. This is like you're lasered in, you can do amazing things. I took some support today for my catecholamines before I got on this call. So what do catecholamines do? They support thyroid and your blood pressure. Right? So if you have low blood pressure, catecholamines, if you have the right support with L-tyrosine or L-phenylalanine or whatever it might be that we decide that you need, that can actually help to raise your blood pressure. It boosts your memory and alertness. So Do you forget where your keys are? Did you forget to pick up your kids? All those kind of things. Or where'd that book go? I don't remember what I just read. You have a concentration issue. These are all catecholamine related. So we want to make sure that that is sufficient. So we have a memory that's boosted and that we're completely alert. It's actually involved in skin pigmentation. I just threw that in there just in case some of you are like, oh, I've got all these weird dots on my skin. And it helps with your mood. So it's helpful in Parkinson's disease. I have seen Parkinson's-like symptoms, whether it's Parkinson's or not, disappear in my office. Or I see clients online as well. We'll use the amino acids, and it actually the shakiness goes away during that appointment, and it supports your aging brain. So all of these amino acids are going to support that aging brain, so that we don't have all these age-related diseases. Right? We have to give our body those foundational nutrients, which is so important. And then if our body doesn't have them, that's when, people are like, well, you're just aging. This is going to happen. You're going to lose your memory. Everybody's talking about, well, when I get dementia or when I get Alzheimer's because my mom had it or my auntie had it or my dad had it, it doesn't have to happen to you. So if we give the brain what it needs, then we're going to alleviate that pathway, right? Or we're going to be able to reverse that progression because I have a lot of tools in my toolbox for the brain. So when you are running on empty, this is the brain's fuel crisis. And so when your catecholamines are low, you got that apathetic, flat, blah mood. You're like, blah, I don't really care about anything, right? I don't have any motivation to clean my house or to do the laundry. I don't want to go out and be with people. How many of you are like that right now? I don't want to go out and be with people. So your energy and your motivation is low. Your drive, your start to finish anything. How many of you do a lot of activities and you start on one thing and you rabbit trail to the next, rabbit trail to the next, rabbit trail to the next, you just don't get anything finished. And we're like, yes, we're really good starters. Yes, we should be able to finish things though too, right? That's not just ADHD. That is the fact that your brain is depleted. And so we need to give it to the nutrition so that you can complete those tasks. So we shouldn't have 17 unfinished things going on around our house. So you're distracted and scattered and you can't focus. Craving sugar. How many of you are addicted to sugar and coffee, a medication like Adderall or energy drinks to cope? So many of my clients come to me on those. And once we balance the brain, they don't need those things anymore. I'm not saying having a cup of coffee is a bad thing, but if you're reliant on that, then that is not a good thing. And so we need to figure out why you feel like you need that. Sometimes it's an endorphin issue. Sometimes you have coffee, you get no boost from it at all, but you just feel so yummy and comfy with it. Well, let's switch that up. Let's balance the brain, and maybe we can find something else that's not going to be stimulating to your brain and your adrenal glands, keeping your body in overdrive all the time. All right, let's do the area 5. So we talked about 1 was serotonin, 2 was GABA, 3 was endorphins, 5 was catecholamines, or 4 was catecholamines, and area 5 is glutamine. And so we have to use L-glutamine, I like to use it, to keep your glucose more stable. This is the amino acid that I use for that because it'll stop starch, sugar, and alcohol cravings within 3 to 5 minutes. It is pretty darn amazing. It gives you a mental alertness and grounding. So has anybody ever told you as an ADHD person, hey, is your glucose stable? Do you get hangry in between meals? Do you not eat enough protein? Do you not eat enough healthy fats? All of those things are what I work on with people so that we can keep the glucose stable in the brain so we don't have the ups and downs. We don't have the ups and downs that cause depletion, right? So L-glutamine is an alternative brain fuel. When our glucose, our blood sugar gets low, it strengthens our immune system and it heals our gut. So that's what's really important about glutamine. And so I want you to think about this. So our diet directly affects how our brain works. So if we're ADHD, I want you to be creative. I want you to be, all the things that you were designed to be by God. But let's just balance your glucose levels. Let's fix that brain depletion so that that creativity can go to the next level, right? So that you don't feel like you're stuck and, trying to battle these things all the time. So I don't feel like we should have to use all the tools and tricks to navigate our life. We just need to feed our body correctly. And then we can change our habits. And then we can, be this brilliant person that we were created to be. So what are some low glutamine symptoms? Cravings for sugar, starch, or alcohol every single day or fairly often. You're like, oh, I always need something to eat after a meal. That's probably a low glutamine issue. That's the amino acid glutamine. You're irritable, shaky, stressed, especially if you go too long between meals. How many of you are hypoglycemic? Right? Where you're like, oh, I really, really, really need something to eat. What do people mostly tell you to do if you go to the mainstream medical? Oh, go eat some sugar. No, 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 no. Let's use some glutamine. Let's learn how to eat protein and healthy fats so that your body knows how to stay stable this whole entire time, right? So then our brain can stay stable and then we don't have these ADHD symptoms anymore. So my goal is to help you to be the calmest mom, the calmest woman, the calmest person, whoever is listening to this right now, that we possibly can be. Even when there's chaos going on around us, we can go, life is good. I feel grounded. You're going to still be able to focus. You're going to be able to respond appropriately. You're not going to snap at people. You feel good. You feel the joy. You feel the sunshine coming into your life. Just was it 2 days ago, I was doing a amino acid trialing. So we were testing the amino acids with this girl, and she took L-tryptophan, and she sat there and she goes, I feel like rays of sunshine are coming in my brain again, and I feel like I can actually focus. It was beautiful, and that is the power of the amino acids, that you can actually focus. You're going to have rays of sunshine coming into your brain. How many of you want that? So here's a client that says, my cravings were eliminated by all the awesome results I got in addition to the food craving reduction, and she doesn't have these constant emotional roller coaster spells anymore. So she is doing fantastic. And she has 8 kids, so there's a lot of chaos around her, right? And so what I use is the Calm Mom method. And what we're talking about today is calming the brain. So we address the deficiencies in the brain first, because if we address the brain first, everything below the neck gets easier to deal with. And then your entire nervous system can go, whoo, calm down. And then we can go to the gut. Yes, the brain and the gut are connected, but we have to calm down with those foundational amino acids first so that your gut can actually heal. And that would be our second phase. And then we go into identifying the root cause issues so that we can actually optimize your health for a life long, right? And so my goal is to teach you how to do all of this. So here's Tammy from Iowa. She says, when I discovered my brain deficiencies, I actually cried. It was amazing to find out that my anxiety was not all just in my head. There was a physical reason why it could be addressed. All right. Here's Julie. She's a mama too. She says, now I feel amazing. I finally felt calm, not numbed, just normal again. How many of you want to feel that, right? So when we remove the interference and fix those deficiencies, healing actually happens. And that's where amino acid comes in, because it's going to restore the balance naturally, so you don't feel like a prisoner, ADHD, anxiety, or any other mood issues. All right. And so I have a Calm Mom Academy. You can also work with me one-on-one, but I did just start the Calm Mom Academy, which is an online program where you have access to all videos, you have community, you have support, you get live calls with me all the time, and you get to see results within 30 days. So when you start working with me in whatever capacity, I want to see a 50% symptom reduction in 30 days. And then we're going to go on and we're going to work on the gut. And because 80% of common gut issues are going to be gas, bloating, acid reflux, post-meal fatigue, and a lot of that is dependent on amino acids. And so we want to make sure that we are fixing those. So I don't want this to be you. I don't want you to feel like you're struggling through every day, you're white knuckling through every day. I want you to take control of your health. I want you to get to the root cause of your symptoms, because you are stronger than you think. You don't, just because you've been diagnosed with ADHD or anything else like that, I don't want you to give up. So my goal is that you choose to fix those deficiencies, because we don't want to wait and just hope it just gets better. We don't want to mask anything. We want to actually fix those deficiencies so that you can reclaim your health, so that you can be the person that God created you to be. And so my program is 90 days. And so imagine 3 months from now feeling calm, confident, and free. Because I don't want you to waste any more money or time in a system that's not working for you. And I don't want you to sit back and go, oh gosh, hopefully this works out well for me. I want you to be like this amazing young woman. She said, I started with you, and my goal was to be able to run after my grandkids and jump on the trampoline. And now she is doing that. She's not at the finish line yet, but she's doing really, really well. So I hope that you choose a different story. and different path for your life. Because you don't have to live with ADHD, anxiety, or anything. It's a deficiency. It is not your destiny. You were created for peace, not pressure. And I want us to calm your brain together. So go ahead and follow me on at the Calm Mom community, and I have a free guide for you. So go ahead and DM me and I will send you that guide. DM me ADHD and I'll send it to you right away. God bless each and every one of you. It has been a pleasure being with each of you today. So I can't wait to hear from you.